Hello, welcome to this video lecture for Understanding Project Management, a Practical Guide, second edition. This is Chapter 7, Project Team Planning. So as just a review, again, we go back to our project life cycle and we are still in the planning phase. And specifically, we are looking at project team planning. So again, as a reminder, these planning tasks all are taking place in relatively the same period of time. We are not working through this list sequentially, but instead are considering all of these different dimensions of planning in the same time period because they do affect each other. Okay, our agenda for today is really two questions that we're looking to answer. The first is, who will work on the project? An important question because projects are performed by people. So we need to know who these people are, who will be working, who will be doing the work. Early in the project team can be very small. The project manager and perhaps a few others who will assist in planning, but there's many more people normally to add to the project. So that's the first question. The next is, how will the project be organized? It's not enough just to throw people on a project and expect them to do the work. There is a level of organization that's required. So that's what we're going to look at today. So in terms of the first question, who will work on the project? So as I mentioned, as the project plans are created, the project team members need to be brought into the project. This is a very important task for the project manager to complete. The acquisition of the resources to work on the project is fundamental, as all of the remaining work of the project, or much of it, will be dependent upon how well this is done. So this is something that should be actively considered and worked on by the project manager. This should not be an afterthought because this is something that you will be living with throughout the project. Now, resources come from a number of areas, a number of sources of resources. So an outstanding question and something to ask yourself is, where do these resources come from? They're not just necessarily given to you. They need to be acquired, and the project manager needs to take an active role in that. Now, depending on the organization, members from the human resources department can be involved. There can be resource managers who are involved as well, and that will vary from organization to organization. So it's difficult just to have a blanket statement as to the involvement, but certainly at the very least, the project manager should be actively involved. And the textbook describes on page 100 a number of different sources resources may be a number of different sources that resources may be acquired from. And so that's something to look at now. This includes internal resources, new hires, and contract workers. There are three different general overall types. Each one there's advantages and disadvantages of each source. Some are able to be acquired very quickly, some take longer. Some are familiar with the organization by definition, and others are new. Some stay with the organization following the project, and some leave. And those are all advantages and disadvantages. So again, I encourage you to read the sections, page 100 and 101 of the textbook for more information on that. Okay, so at this point now, we're going to go to our case study video, and we're going to see what our project manager, Sophie, does in the area of creating the project human resources requirements, which is really kind of the first step in terms of acquiring the resources. So let's watch that together.
As Sophie develops the project schedule, she naturally begins to think about the human resources needs of her project. Deco Productions always has a number of overlapping projects underway at any one point in time, so it can be challenging to get the workers she wants assigned to her project. In the Deco Productions organization, all of the project workers report to a resource manager, Anand Bhandari. Anand's responsibility is to work with each project manager to ensure that each project receives the human resources necessary to complete their project. This is a very challenging process as each project often requires the same type of human resources at the same time. This often involves a great deal of discussion, negotiation, and in some cases, adjustments to the project timeline. Sophie knows from experience that in order to ensure Anand assigns the required human resources to her project, she needs to demonstrate when she needs each type of resource. It is no longer sufficient to talk generally about when team members are required. With the company's increased focus on cost reduction, Sophie is expected to provide spreadsheets detailing her resource needs. She opens her laptop and examines her schedule. Looking at each week of the schedule, she notes the human resources time required and records this information in a resource spreadsheet. Once complete, Sophie sends Anand a link to the spreadsheet and then heads to his office. After her detailed planning, she is feeling good about their meeting.
Okay, so we saw some of the work that was performed by Sophie. So let's just debrief this a little bit. Using the project schedule, Sophie is able to determine the types of human resources required and the timing. If you recall, in a previous lecture, you saw Sophie creating the project schedule, which was building upon the work breakdown structure. So you can start to see how the plans are interrelating with each other. Given a solid project schedule, Sophie is able to then understand the types and timing of the human resources team members that she will need during the project. And this is important information. We saw in this video the introduction of a new resource at Deco Productions. This was the resource manager. This is a role that is present in many organizations. Now, again, not all organizations. Some organizations do their resourcing in a different way, but many will have dedicated roles that will help ensure that project teams are able to acquire the resources as needed. So in this case, we do have a resource manager in the company. Now, this resource manager will need to know the human resources needs of each project, because as was demonstrated in the project, there's many overlapping projects that take place in an organization. So there's competing needs for often the same resources. So the resource manager needs to sort this out. So he or she needs detailed information from the project manager. And this is in the form of a project HR requirements document, which Sophie creates. You saw the creation, her process of creating that. And to see this in more detail, again, go to chapter 7 and you will see the information that Sophie created in the chapter 7 of the textbook. So make sure you do that, take a look at that. Key idea is to acquire the human resources needed to complete the project. Okay, now on to our second question for project team planning is, okay, once the resources are acquired and begin to join the project at the appropriate times, how will the project be organized? And this is an important question. Again, just throwing people onto a project and expecting them to know what to do and who to work with and so on can be difficult. So there are 3 things we're going to look at for this question. The first one is a new document called the Project Roles and Responsibilities. So that's our first stop, is this document. So as the project team begins to form, it is important for the project team members to know their role and what is expected of them. This is very key. Project team members, that'll be one of the first questions they're going to ask, which is, well, what am I supposed to do? What is my role? And this is an important information to be documented and agreed upon within the project team. And it is recorded in a specific document, rather than it just be conversations which are, verbal or not recorded. Memories can fade, or there could be different interpretations taken from it. So it is very important to just write it down. And then if there are misunderstandings, we can go back and look at that document. So it's an important thing to document. Again, let's look at our video case study and see what the next step of how Sophie creates the project roles and responsibilities document. So let's again watch this together.
Leaving Anand's office, Sophie feels good about the people who have been assigned to her project. As expected, Fatijit Kumar will continue through the executing phase of the project. Chris Sandberg is assigned to be the graphic designer. Sophie has had a good working relationship with Chris over the years, so this is a big plus for the project. A relatively new employee, Sarah Pierce, is assigned to be the project's communications specialist. Sophie is less familiar with her, but she thinks it will work out well. Another plus is the assignment of Maddie Wen as the marketing specialist for the project. Sophie perceives that the one potential negative assignment to the project is that of Eli Briggs as the project's videographer. Eli has been a challenge to work with on past projects. Sophie makes a mental note to find ways to motivate Eli during this project. Now that her team is in place, Sophie begins to document the key responsibilities of each team member. Since many of the responsibilities are inherent in the role and do not vary significantly from project to project, she is able to use previous roles and responsibilities documents from other projects as a starting point. However, as each project is unique, she ensures that any additional or modified responsibilities are included.
Okay, so once again, we saw the work that Sophie did on this document. So let's debrief this. We see that each team member is listed in the project roles and responsibilities document, along with a detailed description of their role for the project. During the video, it was described that oftentimes it may be very similar to a previous project. So oftentimes you can take the previous project's roles and responsibilities, bring it forward, copy it out, and bring it into this project, and then just make adjustments as required. It's not recommended to just sort of blindly go on what was done before, because there might be minor variations or completely new roles that are part of this project. Again, recommended to view the document for this in Chapter 7. You can see the level of detail that is included, and the question often becomes is, well, how detailed should it be? What should I include? Now, you wouldn't necessarily include all of the activities which the person will perform, because that's contained in the project schedule. It's more at a summary level, but it's detailed enough so that the person knows, the team member knows what they're supposed to do and where their responsibility ends. What's the scope of the work that they're supposed to do. And this is something that through discussions, through review with your team members, they'll give you feedback if it's not clear enough. They'll say, well, am I supposed to do this or that? Or does this include, this aspect? And that will tell you that you need to include more detail. And so those might be updates then to the roles and responsibilities document. So again, key idea, Make sure that you define the roles and responsibilities of each team member and write it down. Don't leave it to the collective memories of those involved, because those can vary, and that's where problems start to show up. Okay, now again, on how will the project be organized, the second process or tool that we have is something called the responsibility assignment matrix. So it's another tool that's used to clarify the planned involvement. Now, it's not a replacement for the roles and responsibilities document. Think of it as an addition. It looks at things it should support. It should not contradict, but support what you already wrote in the roles and responsibilities document, but it's in a different form. Now, there are many different variations of the responsibility assignment matrix, or RAM for short, and it's called a RACI chart. It's very commonly used. Probably the most common form of responsibility assignment matrix is the RACI chart, or RACI format. And RACI is an acronym standing for 4 different involvements that a person may have during a project. One is that for any given task or work, they may be responsible, which is the R. Now, responsible means they're responsible for doing it, for performing the work, to producing whatever it is that that work will do. So that is responsible, or R. The second involvement that a team member may have is that they may be accountable. Now, accountable means they will be the one who makes sure that the work gets done. They're accountable for its completion. Now, just to pause on these two for a moment, is that you can have a single person, or a person, that for a given task or work can be both accountable and responsible, which means they will make sure the work is done and they will do it. You can also have situations where two different people are involved, where one person may be accountable, that ensures the work will be done, but somebody else is responsible, who will actually do the work, but accountability is with the other person. So these two roles or involvements may be contained in one person, or it can be split across 2 or more. Now, the one exception to that is, while multiple people can be responsible for work, you can have a team member all doing work on a given activity or work package, there should be one person accountable. Accountability should be single, not shared. Responsibility may be shared, not accountability. Accountability is singular. That's an important concept. Now, another involvement may be that, now this is for those that are not responsible or not accountable. There may be others who they're not accountable for it, they're not responsible, but they are somebody who should have input to it, who the project team may go to get advice, to get input, to get it verified, or something like that. That is a C involvement, or that you will be consulted, right? So that's a consult involvement. And finally, the fourth is I for informed. So in this case, if you have an I, and if you're a resource who will be informed, it means you're not responsible, you're not doing it, you're not accountable, you don't need to be consulted with, but you need to find out, you should be informed of the work, the progress or output of this particular activity or work package. So that's an I involvement. Okay. Now, those are the 4 different. There actually is a 5th one, which is nothing. There is, not everyone has to be involved in every aspect of the project. So there may be some activities or work packages that your involvement and a resource's involvement is 0, is blank, and that's okay too. But that's the RACI acronym, is that you look at the work involved in your project and you define for your team members and certain stakeholders as to what their involvement. Are they an R? Are they an A? Are they a C? Or are they an I? Or are they nothing? Are they blank for that? Okay, let's go to our video, and we'll see what Sophie does in the area of the creation of the RACI chart. So let's watch that together.
Sophie calls together her new project team to discuss the project and their roles. While the roles and responsibilities document is very informative to the team members have additional questions such as, do I need to let anyone know when I'm done my work? And who makes sure that work is complete? To help clarify this information, Sophie leads the discussion with the team. Using the RACI chart, she places the name of the project sponsor and the name of each project team member at the top of a column. For each high-level deliverable, the team discusses who should make sure the work is completed, who should complete the work, who should be consulted, and who should be informed.
Okay, so you saw this work done. This RACI chart was completed very quickly in this video. In real life, this would have been a lot of discussion would have taken place. And again, I encourage you to review the RACI chart in the textbook. So the RACI chart, this would have been involved in discussions, in analysis. The project manager may have decided this or may have consulted with the team members in order to develop this. But this allowed, or the RACI process resulted in involvements being defined, such as Maddie will ensure the video is completed, in that she has an A for the video work accountability. Maddie and Eli will perform the work. That is, they will be responsible. So notice in that case, for the video work, Maddie is accountable, but Maddie and Eli will do the work. So Maddie will have an A and an R. Eli will have an R. Again, view the completed RACI chart in the textbook as you're reading, as you're seeing this. Arun, Sophie, and Fattyjet will provide input for the video work, so they will be consulted. And Sarah will be performed periodically, so she will have an I. So that defines the involvements. Chris will not be involved at all, and we'll have no involvement. We'll have a blank for his name for the video work. So this is important. This is now defining for that video work, for the creation of that promotional video. We can see what everybody's going to be doing. Maddie's accountable. Maddie and Eli will actually create the video. Arun, Sophie, and Fattyjet are going to provide input. So therefore, Maddie and Eli should show them clips, get their feedback, work with them to see what they like and don't like. They should let Sarah know how things are going, when it's going to be completed, etc., what the characteristics are, and they don't need to talk to Chris about it. All right, and so he's no need to update them. That makes the work, this allows for the work to be done very efficiently. Everybody kind of knows how they're to be involved, right? So they can do that. Again, as I mentioned, check chapter 7 and see the resulting RACI chart for the work of the project. Okay, and this just again confirms, define the involvement of team members by defining who is accountable, responsible, consulted, and informed for the deliverables of the project. And so you should do this for all of the deliverables. Now you can do it either for the high level deliverables, or you can go down to work packages. Okay, and it really depends on the project as to how detailed that we go. Now, in terms of the third tool or process that we will use is the creation of a project organization chart. Now, organizations use organization charts all the time to demonstrate the structure of the company and the reporting relationships. They are commonly used, and they define who's all in the organization, who reports to who's the top of the head of the organization, and who are working on each team and so on. So it shows you the structure of the company. Well, the same may be done for projects, and this is particularly for very large and complex projects. For a very small or simple project of only consisting of a few team members, be less likely to have a project organization chart. But for large projects, which involve, might be, 10, 20, 50, 100 people, a project organization chart is very important because it'll show the different sub-teams, the different, groups. It'll show you who's heading up each group, each sub team within the project, and so on. And so it's very important. Again, highly recommended to check and view the project org chart for the DecoCam project. You'll find that in Chapter 7. So please have a look at that. It'll make this all come together. So again, key idea, create a project organization chart demonstrating the organization of the project. Key step. Some key terminology that was introduced during this chapter: project HR requirements org chart, project org chart, project roles and responsibilities, RACI chart, and responsibility assignment matrix. And as usual, you can see the key terminology in Chapter 7 of the textbook and see the complete list of key terms and definitions. Some references that are for the images in this presentation. And this is the end of this video lecture.